Let's consider the Piel, imperfect. Now, we're going to compare it here to the Kal, imperfect, Yikto, he will kill. Now, the Piel has two other minor stems as part of its family, the Pual and the Hitpael, but let's put most of our attention into Piel, Yikatel. Now, as we've noted previously, under the prefix pronoun, the shva is the main indicator. A secondary indicator is the dageshim that we see throughout this family in the middle of in the ayin letter. And so the sense of Piel is he will slaughter, just a little bit more stronger when there's both a kal form and a Piel form. And we can see by looking at the pual that we still have the shva under the prefix pronoun, but then in this case we continue to have the kibbutz under the pei letter, which signals to us that this is in the pual. The hitpael, we have the heat attached to the front, but the yod displaces the hey because the hey is a weak Jonah letter. So it is this yeet beginning that signals to us that this is a hitpael imperfect form. Now, as we've noted in the past, one of the reasons we memorize the kal and focus on it so strongly is the prefix pronouns and the suffixes that go with the pronouns, the he, she, you, I, they, y'all, they feminine, y'all, and we. Those prefixes and suffixes, when available, are exactly the same for all of the different stems. So in the Piel, we have exactly the same prefixes and suffixes. Same for the other two minor stems of the Piel family. Now, what you'll notice then, by looking at the Piel in contrast to the Kal, all the way down the line, we have the shva under the prefix pronoun, signifying to us that this is a Piel. So we're familiar with the prefixes already because we've memorized them with the Kal. And then once we see the slight difference of the shva under the prefix pronoun, that clues us in that we're talking about a Piel. And then one other thing to note is under the first person common singular, because of the nature of the aleph, it's going to want to have a compound shva, but there's still a shva there. So that's telling us I'm a Piel over and against the kal, which has a normal segol. Let's consider a couple of examples here from Genesis chapter 8. Vayedaber Elohim el Noach. And the subject is Elohim, and God spoke to Noah. Now here when we go to parse our verb, we can start with what's easy, and we can see this is a vav consecutive imperfect 3ms. That jumps out at us very easily. We can also see in this case that it comes from the root dalet beit resh, from davar, to speak. Then we need to figure out which stem is it from. And so we have both our major indicator, the shva, and that's telling us this is a Piel, but we also in this case have the minor indicator, a dagesh. And even though that's a begad kafat letter, I know it's a dagesh forte because the patak precedes it. So this is a Piel, a vav consecutive imperfect, 3ms, and God spoke to Noah. Genesis chapter 2, verse 3. Vayevarech Elohim et yom ha-shavi'i vayekadesh oto. Now at the beginning here we have the subject God, and God blessed the day, the seventh day, and he holied it, and he made it holy. So we'll focus on this verb here, which comes from the root kof dalet shin, to make holy. And what we can begin with is what's easy for us, and we can see this as a vav consecutive imperfect form. We can also see, because of the yod prefix pronoun, this is third person masculine singular, thus agreeing with the subject here, Elohim. Now, what stem is it? Well, again, here we have the shva under the prefix pronoun, so that's telling us this is a Piel. So we have, and he made holy, or and he made it holy. Now in this case, we have another vav consecutive imperfect 3ms, same subject, but you'll notice there's no dagesh in the middle root letter, and of course there wouldn't be because it's a resh, and that has a kind of a refuses dagesh. But we still have the shva under the prefix pronoun, so that's telling us this is in the Piel form. This is vav consecutive imperfect 3ms, and he blessed, Piel. Here's an example from Genesis chapter 12. Vayashalachu oto va'et ishto va'et kol asher lo. And they sent him and his wife and all which was his. So here we'll parse our verb, vayashalachu, and here it comes from the root shin lamed chet, to send forth, and what we can see immediately is it's in the vav consecutive imperfect form, and we can also see by the prefix and the suffix that it's third person masculine plural, and they sent. Now, what stem is it? Well, in this case, we have the shva under the prefix pronoun, so that we know that this is Piel. And so we want to translate this a little more strongly than we would if it were a kal. So we'd say Pharaoh's attendants, and they expelled him, Abraham, because they're frustrated because of the plagues that were brought onto them because of him lying about his wife being his sister. And one more example from Genesis 3. Vayish ma'u et kol Hashem Elohim, vayitchabe ha'adam vayishto mipanei Hashem Elohim betok eitz hagan. And they heard the voice, or probably here the sound, of the Lord God, and they hid themselves. Now the subject is the human and his wife. That's the they. And they hid themselves from before the Lord God in the midst of the trees of the garden. Now here we have two verbs, and this one we can see is a kal, and it's a vav consecutive imperfect 3MP. So we have the same subject, I suppose, and they heard. Then we have another verb here. Let's go ahead and parse this one. This one comes from the root chet bet aleph, to hide. Now in this case, what we can see easily is it is from the hitpael, and it's 3ms. And in this case, it's the vav consecutive imperfect as well. Now, a minute ago, I translated this as they because I was looking at the subject, but now that I'm looking closer at it, it's not they, it's 3ms, it's he. So kind of we have a compound subject, but really only the first noun here is what this plays off of. So, and he hid himself, the man and his wife, from before the Lord. And this happens sometimes in the Bible. Sometimes we'll have a compound subject which will take a plural verb, and sometimes a singular, like here. But as you can see, the het prefix is on there, and then the yod, which comes from the 3ms, it displaces the he, so that we have a yeet beginning, telling us that this is a hitpael form.